It's time, Cougar Nation. Cougar Tracks. The best season analysis with BYU insider Mitch Harper on KSL NewsRadio and on video every day on the YouTube page for KSL Sports.
Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL NewsRadio, your legacy home of the Cougars. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. It's a football Friday, but it's also a holiday here on the show, and that's our top story of the day.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
Hope everyone is having a happy Halloween, however you're celebrating Halloween. In the hierarchy of holidays, to me, Halloween is not near the top, personally. I'd say Christmas, Thanksgiving, even Labor Day, Memorial Day, July 4th. Those, to me, are the holidays that I put in the great hierarchy of great holidays. New Year's Day as well. Halloween, it's a fun day. I'm not that energy that says, oh, don't dress up. I don't mind dressing up. This year, I didn't dress up. I've got the ghost face mask from years ago. I could always throw that on. Last year, I dressed up as Grimace. It's always fun going to a football practice that coincides with Halloween. A couple years ago, Jay Hill dressed as Austin Powers. It's fun showing up in Halloween costumes. It has been different this year for BYU. No AD just setting the internet ablaze with a costume. Brian Santiago, he's a man of business. He's not dressing up for Halloween. That was Tom Holmoe's deal. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest with you, that we haven't seen any sort of photo evidence of Tom Holmoe's Halloween costume this year. I got to imagine the guy still dressed up. He had to have dressed up. The man loves Halloween costumes. That was Tom Holmoe's thing. But so it's been a little bit different around BYU. BYU students still filling campus with some great creative costumes. I think a couple people had the Toy Story Pizza Planet cup and the burger box of Woody and Buzz. That was creative. That's BYU students to a T. They are big brain, galaxy brain thinkers when it comes to Halloween costumes. And a guy that can appreciate some Halloween fun is Kalani Sitake. And Kalani had a fun story that he shared with the media about Halloween in the past, and this was Kalani Sitake.
When you say everybody needs to recharge on the bye week, our coaches do too. So I'm looking forward to them hanging out with their families and you know, obviously recruiting is an everyday thing, but allowing them to go trick or treating and I mean, it's crazy when you think about the costumes and how exciting it gets. But I actually I'll give you a quick story. Well, Taysom Hill had a bye one weekend, and he came to my house to visit during Halloween trick-or-treating time. So he came by to visit, and we're trying to get our kids ready for Halloween. And I just said, Taysom, go hand out the candy. I gave him my job. So he goes out there, and next thing I know, there's this huge line at at our house because Taysom Hill's over there. Then the next year, we happen to have a bye week or had Halloween off again. It might have been during the middle of the week, and all the kids showed up again, and all they were asking is, "Where's Taysom Hill?" And I was like, "Oh, this." But it's like, I'm the head coach. They just want the players, you know, and I'm okay with that. So I don't know if I'm gonna hand out the candy this year. I'm gonna maybe who in the NFL has a bye? Oh, Jamal Williams gonna always be available. Maybe he'll come by and bring his daughter to trick or treat in my neighborhood, and he could take over as the guest candy giver. So yeah, but we love it.
Imagine being a kid going to a house, one that's Kalani's house, and then two, it's not Kalani at the door, it's Taysom Hill. You'd be like, Kalani, you dressed up as Taysom Hill? No. Good stuff from Kalani. Earlier today, I was at my kids' elementary school parade, you know, the traditional Halloween parade. I think every kid does it. I was surprised, a lot of kids rocking BYU gear. And keep in mind, I live up in Salt Lake County, so you would typically think a lot of Utah fans are going to be feeling the Halloween costumes. And there was a good number of Utah kids as well, but I saw a handful of BYU kids rocking BYU gear. My middle son, Lincoln, he dressed up this year as Ryder Lyons, future BYU quarterback. He's like his dad, getting ahead of the curve. While everyone is dressing up as Bear, Lincoln is getting ahead of everything and going straight to his favorite guy, the King of Aura, Ryder Lyons. My oldest son, Max, he dressed up as Sully. They had a picture with Xavier Staten, BYU Basketball Center, at the trick or treat. So pretty cool to see that. Look at Staten's costume. My goodness, that thing is scary. It's frightening. I've never been scary Halloween guy as far as costumes. I'm either funny Halloween costume guy or no costume guy. That's kind of my deal. I don't mind a good scary movie, a horror movie. I like those. But as far as scary costumes, I've never been scary costume guy, other than maybe a scary mask, but then it's spun into a funny piece. There was a great picture, too, of a BYU fan rocking a Bear Bachmeier jersey with a Utah kid or stuffed figure trailing them. Great picture from Cougar Stats on X. So Cougar Nation is loud and proud. When they're 8-0 and flying high, it makes it a little more enjoyable to wear that BYU uniform and costume on Halloween when the Cougs are flying high at 8-0. Halloween week is traditionally a spot for me when it comes to my job to kind of have a tradition of sorts. On Halloween week since 2011, BYU has had a bye week 7 times since 2011. It used to be under Bronco almost like a preferred spot to have because you got the holiday, you get to spend time with the family, the kids, and that was kind of the go-to spot in Independence with the bye week. 4 times in the Bronco era since 2011, BYU had a bye week around Halloween, and then this is the 3rd time this has happened for Kalani in his era, back-to-back years off for Halloween. And typically in this spot, I start to piece together the groundwork for the following year's BYU football roster and depth chart. And I know that's next level thinking here. Again, they're 8-0. There's still 4 games to go in 2025. But my thought is this. Before we know it, it's portal season. It's recruiting season. I mean, signing day is coming up the first Wednesday in December. BYU just had a prospect decommit earlier today, a cornerback in Jackson Gates. He flipped his commitment from BYU to Missouri. When he committed to BYU, he was flipping from Syracuse to BYU. So he's on his 3rd commitment now. But piecing together the tenets of the 2026 roster, and I will say, I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds with you here, but I'm kind of looking at next year's roster potentially. Again, BYU's at 8-0. This is a good football program. And the face of the program is Bear Bachmeier next season. Ryder Lyons, who my son was dressed up as for Halloween today, he's going to be 2027 guy. Bear Bachmeier, this is his program, his team. You think about Bear, LJ Martin next year. Get some transfer portal running backs. Wide receivers, you got Kingston, JoJo Phillips, Cody Hagan, LaMason Waller. A lot of good personnel on the offensive line. Defensive line, you got a lot of players with eligibility returning in even Keanu Tanavasa if he wants to run it back. All I'm saying is this stretch run for BYU, if they can find a way to get to Arlington, I don't look at this as some coronation moment for the program. You could have sustained success with what you're doing going forward to where this could become an annual deal where BYU is contending at a high level because, and you can't assume that everyone's back. There's going to be attrition every single year, but look, there's a lot to like about potentially what could be next year, especially if this year's team finishes strong. So I'm already putting together my 2026 big boards and rosters for next year, and early thoughts on next year. I like the personnel, man. I think this could be some really special things for BYU going forward in the future. Let's take a break. Get to more BYU football talk and some Big 12 football picks around the corner. It's Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL News Radio. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL News Radio. Every day, Cougar Tracks comes to you live Monday through Friday at high noon on the KSL Sports YouTube and audio podcast feed and on KSL News Radio. Appreciate all of you for subscribing to the show, whether it's on YouTube or audio podcast. Appreciate you for supporting this show, having a blast doing the daily podcasting thing. I keep telling people it's the favorite thing I've done since I started at KSL. I love hosting daily content and daily shows for you and Cougar Nation, and I hope you appreciate it as well. Coming up on Monday, BYU Basketball is in action to tip off the most anticipated season in program history as number 8 BYU takes on the Villanova Wildcats. BYU, pretty sizable favorite against Villanova. Villanova's a top 50 team in KenPom. It's not like this is some slouch of a program. They got a new head coach in Kevin Willard. And to get a more in-depth look at the Wildcats from the Big East Conference, I caught up with the Villanova insider to learn more about Nova and this year's Villanova squad right now here on Cougar Tracks. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and KSL Sports. BYU Basketball gets the season started on Monday night in Las Vegas against one of the great brands in college basketball, the Villanova Wildcats. First meeting since 1984, tip-off at 7:30 here on KSL. And to talk about the Villanova Wildcats, I'm joined now by Willy Annon, the full 40 of Villanova podcast host. He covers all things Villanova basketball. And Willie, appreciate you hopping on board here. This is, I think, a really good matchup to open up night one in college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and thank you for having me, Mitch. I think it's a fantastic matchup. When I saw that we were going to be playing in Vegas versus BYU, I was like, okay, they're really starting off the season strong. I mean, the progress the BYU brand and team has made over the last, we'll call it last couple of seasons, but just in general, has been fantastic from going from a very, very strong team with in the Jimmer days to kind of like a little bit of a down period, but then you had TJ Hawes and everybody there, Collinsworth, and now AJ DeBansta. This is kind of one of the premier, all eyes are on BYU right now, so this is a really fun matchup. Villanova coming back from a couple of down seasons. Underneath the leadership of Kevin Willard, we're pretty confident that things will start to turn back towards the way of Villanova being just one of the power brands in college basketball.
You bring up Kevin Willard. I think for people nationally on the surface, they looked at that exit from Maryland and thought it was a little bit messy, but he's got so much history in the Big East. Has it been a pretty smooth transition?
Yeah, it's been a pretty smooth transition. As you mentioned, he has a lot of history in the Big East. He was at Seton Hall for 11 years. Was at Seton Hall for 11 years, so we've coached against him, we played against him. As he got Seton Hall kind of up and running, I would say around 2015, 2016, there's even a kind of a faction of Villanova fans that would call Seton Hall our main rival of the late Jay Wright era, because Georgetown had kind of taken a downturn. UConn was out of the Big East, coming back into the Big East, and then when they came back, it wasn't obviously they weren't as what they're doing right now. So there was a big faction of people that kind of felt that Seton Hall was our number one rival for that late 2015 to the end of the Jay Wright era, frankly. Seton Hall had a fantastic team 2020 that would have been a top 3 seed if the pandemic hadn't happened. But Kevin Willard's ingratiated himself very well. He's gotten involved in campus. It's feeling like it's a good fit. He's kept alumni still engaged and involved. We have a big summer jam session essentially where a lot of alumni come back, and I think there was probably a little bit of worry that now that we've picked someone quote unquote outside the Villanova family, are we going to lose that? And as of right now, it looks like everything's running pretty smoothly. It's a brand new team, so it's going to be very interesting to see how this works out. This is a thing that Villanova fans haven't ever had to deal with before, of having a straight up brand new team. I think basically 11 new players, one returner who actually played minutes, another returner who was academically ineligible. So there's a lot of new to go around, but we are familiar with Kevin Willard, and overall, like, he's done a very, very good job with Seton Hall. And then, I mean, Maryland, once again, was a 4-seed Sweet 16 team. So excited to see what he's going to bring to us.
What has been your impressions of how he built the roster?
Yeah, so this roster is super interesting. It's very guard heavy, which is something that we've noticed. We've seen a lot of in the Jay Wright era. There's a couple of big men in Duke Brennan, who was a transfer from Grand Canyon. And then, as most coaches do, Kevin Willard brought a lot of Maryland people with him. So there's a versatile kind of big man wing, he's kind of can do a little bit of all, called Tafara Gapare. I'm expecting we'll see those two on the front line on opening night. The fun part of what we've seen thus far through a couple of scrimmages is we've seen different lineups, mainly because of injury and sickness. But so a couple of bigs, but then there's a lot of really, really like good young guards or guards who have played for like a season or two. So between Devin Askew, who people may remember was at Kentucky, and then he's transferred a few times. He's in our backcourt. He had an ankle injury, but it sounds like he's going to be coming back. Unsure if he'll be back by the BYU game. But then there's Bryce Lindsey, Texas A&M to JMU to Villanova transfer. And then a lot of like really, really like fun young players. Malachi Palmer, who was on the bench at Maryland last year, has shown some really good flashes for us in the scrimmages. And then I think the one that everybody who's excited about is we have our own freshman, Caden Lewis, who was a Kentucky commit. After everything that happened in Kentucky last year, he decommitted after Pope went to UK. And he ended up decommitting, and essentially, I think it's even a little bit later than that, but ended up decommitting and committing to us. And Caden Lewis is a really, really fun passer, can get into the lane kind of at will, is really creative, has great court vision, keeps the ball on a string. So we're excited to see what he does. I'm expecting we're going to see him in the starting lineup on Monday as well.
Talk with Willy Annon, Full 40 of Villanova Basketball Podcast. You can check out his podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. You brought up Lewis. He got the final shot in that exhibition against Virginia to try to have a chance to tie it up. It seems like he's going to be a guy that's a key piece, even on opening night, you think?
Yeah, I think that I genuinely think this team, and not to put too much pressure on him as a freshman, but if we're going to have elite upside, it's going to be because Caden Lewis has been an elite freshman. That's what I'd expect. So I think, to your point of him getting the ball down the stretch of that Virginia scrimmage, it wasn't the best look, but like, this is what scrimmages are for, learning experiences. I think if he's an elite freshman, like to the level that we hope he can be, like, I think we have a very good chance of being a pretty strong tournament team. So I would imagine, like, starting from day one, we're going to see him in the starting lineup and the offense running through him. And then as Devin Askew gets back and like Bryce Lindsey gets more ingratiated as like another lead guard, I think we're gonna have a good rotation of guards there. There's a lot of really, really fun players on this team.
So to follow up on Askew, do you think he's going to play on Monday night? Because I know they listed him as a right knee sprain on that scrimmage. What do you think is the outlook there on Monday?
I'm probably going to say no, just because he was supposed to be out until December. That's like everything that we had heard. He was going to be out for a bit. It seems like he's healed up quicker. But I can't imagine, with not playing in any scrimmages or anything like that, that we're going to start off with him in that game. But I mean, I could be wrong. But as of right now, sure, I've heard nothing to say he's going to start on Monday or play. But we have a couple more days, so maybe we'll come back and we'll hear that there's more there's more progress than we thought. Which means we're doing one thing that Villanova is really good at, is usually keeping the injury stuff under wraps. We've done, historically, have always been a pretty play close to the vest type of team, and it sounds like we're continuing that here.
No question. Coming up Monday night, 7:30 p.m. tip again, BYU and Villanova. What do you think are the strengths that you feel confident about this Villanova team, even though it's a new look squad in year one under Kevin Willard? The strengths and maybe areas that you feel like you're wanting to learn about this Villanova team against BYU.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So the strengths is, I think we're going to have a lot of depth. I think Kevin Willard did a very good job in the portal of getting, I'm thinking like 10 players we're going to see who are going to be like genuine rotation players who are going to be able to play for us. That's one thing I'm expecting to see from us. So the depth will be good. There's going to be a lot of guard depth. That inverse of that is, and we saw this come to life in the UVA game, rebounding might not be our full strength, or our strength. Duke Brennan is a great rebounder, but we were getting kind of beat on the boards versus UVA. There was a possession in the first half where Chance Mallory, who's all of 5'10", got it like high pointed a rebound against us, and was like, all right, well, we need to an offensive rebound against us. I was like, we need to make sure we clean that up. So there's a few like rebounding concerns, but I think we're going to be like pretty deep. I think we're going to have ball handlers, which I'm really, really excited about, between Askew, Lindsay, Lewis, Chris Jeffries, a really strong freshman that was a Maryland commit and came over with Kevin Willard. We're going to have ball handlers, so I'm excited about that. And then just historically, Kevin Willard teams have always been pretty, if not good defensively, tenacious defensively. So I think that's something we'll see. We saw a little bit of Tafara Gapare, who's 6'9", long, very athletic. We saw a bit of him playing at the top and like pressuring people. I think we'll see a lot of ball pressure, especially in half court sets. So teams that don't have point guards, we will be able to get up and underneath them. So I'm expecting, and this is the fun part of like, all right, well, we've never seen these players play together in a full, we've seen scrimmages. We haven't seen them playing like when the lights turn on for real. But historically, Kevin Willard teams have always been pretty good defensively. So I'd imagine we're going to see a pretty good defensive team. That opens up the question of what does the offense look like? I like our guards on paper. I think there's a lot of like potential there. And so I'm really excited to see what it looks like. One thing that will be interesting is this is more of a little nugget. For the last 6 years, Villanova has been the best free throw shooting teams in the country, just consistently at the top of free throw shooting. We haven't shot particularly well from the free throw line this year. So I'm very curious to see how that turns out. I think it's just a thing that we've practiced really, really hard underneath Jay Wright era teams. And even though Kyle Neptune isn't Jay Wright, came from the same tree, we've always been really good at the free throw line. I think we'll see how that looks like coming up for this season as well, which could be huge down the stretch for us in certain games.
Last thing for you, Willy, and appreciate you spending so much time. This has been awesome. Begin previewing BYU and Villanova, but along with covering the Villanova Wildcats, you also like the NBA draft, and I got to get your thoughts on what you think of AJ Dibonsa, and even to a lesser extent, maybe Rob Wright and Richie Saunders for BYU. But your thoughts on the collection of personnel BYU has that are expected to be some prominent NBA prospects.
Yeah, we'll start with AJ just at the head of this thing. He's been I think it's been the last 2 seasons. It's been kind of clear he's been the number one player in the class. He is a absolute 6'9", 210, great big wing, has a great frame. He looks the part. He is a offensive player who can absolutely take over games. For being 6'9", he has a lot of wiggle, has a really strong profile. He's shown pretty decent passing instincts, which I think is really good for a player like him. Most players that I think about, who are 6'9" wings, who can put the ball in the bucket, the passing isn't always there immediately. He has that passing. He shows that there. He's a very confident player. He is he plays with a really, really strong edge as of right now. So I'm curious to see how that defensive edge translates in. I'm curious to see how that defensive edge translates in the beginning of the season. Is he able to pick up full court? Can he be a good positive defender for you all? And then I think the 3-point shot needs a little bit of work. Everybody needs in basketball today, in the NBA today, everybody needs a little bit of work. He needs to make sure he's taking more easier shots for himself, being a tough shot maker, not just a tough shot taker. But he's an elite talent. He can really, really be somebody. I look at him and I see this is potentially Tracy McGrady. So really excited about him. And then the other two between Rob Wright and Richie Saunders. Richie Saunders, at the end of the day, if you can shoot the basketball, you have a chance in the NBA, and Richie Saunders can shoot with the best of them. So, he has good size, 6'5", a little bit of the guard skills. He's probably going to play more off ball at the NBA, but I see him playing off of the band stuff really, really well. And then Rob Wright, a little bit more undersized Philly guard, actually, funnily enough. So was someone that was in our own backyard, but he's going to he had a decent year at BYU, I think, or Baylor, excuse me. I think we're going to see maybe another year or two from him. But Rob Wright, all the wiggle in the world, all the burst, a classic Philadelphia guard. He's on NBA draft radars. If it's not this year, it'll be early next year for sure.
He's Willy Annon. You can follow his work at the Full 40 of Villanova Basketball Podcast. Great breakdown, too, on the NBA draft. And Willy, appreciate the time. Looking forward to this matchup on Monday. And and best of luck to the Wildcats in year one under Kevin Willard. Should be fun.
Yep. Thank you so much, Mitch.
Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. It's a BYU football bye weekend, but that doesn't mean Big 12 football slows down.
Big 12 picks. In the deepest conference in America, anything can happen. Mitch tries to tell you what will happen next. It's his Big 12 picks. Big 12 picks.
Week 10 Big 12 football action. Typically, we give you these picks on a Thursday, but with BYU basketball season preview show yesterday, I moved this to Friday, and I thought it'd work out okay because it's a BYU bye week, and next Thursday we'll be back to the regular schedule for these Big 12 picks, and it starts off with West Virginia at number 22, Houston, 10 a.m. on FS1. West Virginia showed a little bit of fight last week against TCU, but Houston's rolling, man, 7-1, and I think they got the easiest schedule, if that's even a term in the Big 12. I hate saying that because chaos can happen when you're least expecting it in this league, but I'll go with Houston to roll past West Virginia. UCF at Baylor, 10 a.m. on ESPNU. I'm not going to lie, this feels like a big one for Dave Aranda, because if you lose this game, if you're Aranda, doesn't that crank up the heat? Doesn't that maybe raise the questions about if he's the right guy for the job? It's been shocking to me that this Baylor defense struggles as much as they do under Dave Aranda. When you think Dave Aranda, you think great defensive play. And that has not been the case for Baylor this year. I will go with Baylor slightly. It's going to be a close one between the Bears and the Knights. I'll maybe just default to the home edge for the Bears to get this one done. Arizona State at Iowa State, 11 a.m. on TNT. Kenny Dillingham announced that Sam Levitt out for the year, going to have season-ending surgery. That's huge. That is a bummer. I still think Arizona State's going to battle and compete, but they're so banged up. They've got players out for the first half. They've got a bunch of injuries. Levitt's out. I'll go with Iowa State in this one. Now, Iowa State's secondary is not great. BYU passed for more than 300 yards, and Iowa State is on a 3-game skid. But I don't know if Jeff Sims can capitalize on that weak secondary. So I'm going to go with Iowa State to get it done over the Sun Devils. Number 13, Texas Tech at Kansas State. All of Cougar Nation's going to be watching this one. 1:30 p.m. on Fox. I could see Kansas State pulling off this upset. Avery Johnson, quarterback for K-State. He's had a lot of success through the air as of late. Honestly, this whole season, even when Kansas State was struggling in the early part of the year, Avery Johnson's been good through the air. This is an anniversary game for the Big 12. It's the 30th anniversary of the season, but the first ever game between two conference foes was Texas Tech and Kansas State back in 1996 in Manhattan. So you've seen the Big 12 roll out some nostalgia, the throwback Big 12 logo from 1996 to 2003. Is there a look-ahead spot here for Texas Tech, who hasn't won in Manhattan since 2008? I think this is coming down to the wire. I'm going to go with Texas Tech by a field goal. I think this is going to be down to the wire game. Texas Tech escapes, and it sets up potentially a top 10 showdown next week between BYU and Texas Tech. Oklahoma State at Kansas, 2 p.m. on ESPN+. Kansas. Anyone that's playing Oklahoma State, I'm going with the opponent. Oklahoma State is lifeless. They are struggling, and that's putting it lightly. Arizona at Colorado, 5 p.m. on FS1. I'll call for Colorado to somehow bounce back. That looked like a group that completely quit last week in Salt Lake. Quit. But I'd like to think that Coach Prime, who rarely experiences failure to that degree, I would argue that was probably the worst loss that Coach Prime has suffered ever in his athletic professional career of any kind. He's never taken a loss like that. That looked like the Colorado teams before Coach Prime when they were the worst team in the Pac-12. That's how bad they were last week against Utah. I will say Colorado gets home, they get right, and they win a close one against an Arizona team that also badly needs a win. But I'll go with Colorado to escape. And then number 17, Cincinnati, at number 24, Utah, 8:15 p.m. on ESPN. Utah is a huge favorite in this game. College game day is going to be there. Cincinnati is without running back Evan Pryor. I've got questions about Cincinnati's ability to slow down Utah's offense. Devin Dampier expected to go for Utah, quarterback for the Utes. I think the Utes win this game. I won't lie, though, that was probably the most shocking thing I've ever seen on Sunday when it was announced that College game day was going to Cincinnati at Utah. It's a big game. I'm not knocking it. But Utah gets College game day for what? It was almost like, hey, Big 12, we're throwing you a bone. Hopefully we see College game day next week with Tech and BYU. It feels like it kind of hinges on Texas Tech winning against K-State tomorrow, and then it sets up a massive matchup between the Cougs and Red Raiders. Cannot wait for that one. Hopefully all of you have a fantastic weekend. Again, happy Halloween to all of those who celebrate, and we will be back on Monday with more Cougar Tracks. And just a programming note, too. Cougar Sports Saturday, noon to 3. Subscribe to Cougar Sports Saturday. Myself and Nate Slack, he's going to fill in for Kyle Ireland tomorrow. We've got a loaded show. We're going to have Hank Bachmeyer on the program, Fran Fraschilla, loaded show on Cougar Sports Saturday, noon to 3. We'll have live check-ins on all the college football action tomorrow from Broadcast House. So tune into that, noon to 3, Cougar Sports Saturday here on KSL News Radio and KSLSports.com. But Cougar Tracks will be back on Monday. We'll talk to you then to set the stage for BYU basketball against Villanova in Las Vegas and Cougar football against Texas Tech. Huge week ahead. We've got you covered on Cougar Tracks, and it's powered by KSL Sports.